What's going on, YouTube? We're back at it for another video, and today we've got the most brokenly overpowered meta loadout inside of Helldivers 2. We're talking about that loadout that's going to give you the capabilities to top in the charts at the end of every single match. We're talking big, bold, yellow text that's letting everybody on the team know that you pulled the most weight, giving you the capability of looking at each one of those teammates and telling them you're welcome for the carry. And if any one of those Helldiver Karens wants to pipe up and tell you that your stratagems pulled all the weight and that you should probably use some fun and efficient loadout, well, you could tell them they could shove it, because we're all about efficiency over here. We're looking for the top number of kills because that's the only way that you can determine if you're the best at the end of every single match. As we all know, especially from those certified pros down in the comments, that if you're not topping the charts with kills, you're not the best, right? Right? Because there's no way that somebody down in the comments below that writes out and gives you the credentials that they're a 100+ level player, that they're going into level 9s, completing every objective, clearing everything out, and making sure that they're always getting minimal deaths, along with having the most kills at the end of every single match. They are the apex predator. And there's no way you can question it, because they got that big, bold yellow text letting everybody know they got the most kills. Here's your gold star, buddy. You're special. With that being said, we've got to detail out how you could become the next #1 gold star wearing Helldiver in Helldivers 2 with the most brokenly overpowered meta loadout. So let's get down to the details. Coming up first, we've got the primary weapon, the ERUPTER, which is going to be the gold star standard when it comes to facing off with the Terminate, as with this weapon we won't even need to aim it. All we'll need to do is fire at the ground near any one of those bugs and let the shrapnel do all the work for us. You're going to see a growing trend with this loadout to where we put in half the effort to get the most impact out of it. What's more meta than that? Now when it comes down to the capabilities of the ERUPTER, it will be able to one-shot every single enemy against the Terminate, sometimes minus that of the Biotype. Now, instead of giving you the old song and dance rundown of every single Terminate that this can one-shot, we're going to talk about some of those Terminate that may be a little bit different and how you'll be able to one-shot them from just shooting at the ground. Coming up first, we've got the Hive Guard, which is one that you'll just need to shoot just underneath its chin or off to the left or the right. Just avoid trying to get that shrapnel into the armor or direct hits towards that armor. And as long as you've got any one of those squishy bits just behind it getting pelted with some of that shrapnel, you're going to get a one-shot. Coming up right after that, we've got the Brood Commander, which is going to be very easy. Just shoot directly underneath its chin and let that shrapnel fly into its body and its legs. And sometimes you may even have a moment where you completely vaporize that Brood Commander into nothing but liquid. There's nothing better than that moment. And just after that, we'll be facing up with those pesky bile spewers. One of my most hated enemies, the bloaty bugs. These little morning sick ants are going to be blown to bits with one shot every single time, as long as they're the orange variety. And when it comes to the cousin of this bloaty bug, the medium armored acid green variant, that one, sadly enough, will take 2 shots just about every single time, unless you put in a little more effort and aim directly underneath their chin. And in that instance, and only that instance, will it sometimes be able to one-shot. But beyond that, it will always be a 2-shot. But what other primary can get that done? Now let's talk about the talk of the town, which is the #1 reason a lot of people think that the ERUPTER is completely overpowered, and the fact that it will be able to one-shot a charger. Sometimes, not always, but can be pretty consistent. Just depends on whether or not you want to put in the effort to actually land that perfect shot. But you don't always have to, because guess what? We're putting in half the effort, and we're still going to be able to blow up that charger with no problem. As long as you're shooting somewhere near that back end and allowing all that shrapnel to go into that weak spot on that back end, you're going to be taking them down in no time. But if you want to guarantee that one shot, what you're going to want to do is either land a shot on the left or right side near that back leg and up underneath that back end. That way all that shrapnel is going into that weak spot on the back end and on the back weak spot of the back leg. We're getting all the backs covered with this one and cutting through them with all that shrapnel. But in those moments, you'll be double dipping on that damage, maximizing your overall DPS output, and blowing out that charger in just one shot. That ERUPTER just knows how to hit all the right spots. And when it comes down to the Bile Titan, I wouldn't exactly call this the best weapon to face off with that thing. You can blow off the sacks underneath, sometimes it's 2 shots, sometimes it's more, sometimes the shrapnel just doesn't go where you want it to. It feels a bit hit or miss, especially since those little arms that it has are covering those little sacks underneath. And sometimes that can eat up the shot from your ERUPTER, and it's very frustrating. Now you can deal damage towards the weak spot that's exposed on its back if somebody's blown off the armor, but even then it's not exactly the greatest amount of damage, as we're not going to be able to actually get the most overpowered damage out of this weapon, considering it's all about the shrapnel, and we won't be able to get that much shrapnel into that weak spot, thus making the overpowered nature of the Erupter not great towards that of the Biotitan. But when it comes down to it, the Erupter is going to give us everything we need through the power of shrapnel and in accuracy. Just shooting at the side of a barn is all that we need in order to make ourselves one of those overpowered Helldivers that's just clearing up every one of those bug breaches. When it comes down to crowd control, you're going to be taking out those bug breaches in just about 24 hours. There is nothing more overpowered than this. But don't worry, it gets even better. Let's move on to the stratagems you'll need to build out this loadout. Starting off with the first stratagem, we've got the orbital laser. We're looking to glass that planet. This is going to be one of those set it and forget it. We're not trying to put that much effort in. All we got to do is type this one in, throw it onto one of those bug breaches, and let it just glass the whole surface. We're going to be burning out every one of those bugs, and it can help with taking down those chargers and those biotitans. Simple, easy, and effective. Coming up right after that, we've got the Eagle Cluster Bomb. This is just going to be boosting those kills, making sure you get those yellow numbers at the very end of every single match, because guess what? Gold stars coming your way, buddy. You're going to be the #1. Every time you see one of those bug breaches pop up, type in that Eagle Cluster Bomb, throw it on top, whether or not your teammates are even close, and be careful, because you don't want to be caught in that blast zone. It is going to be massive. But with this stratagem, you're going to be lighting up a show out there. You're going to be the fireworks everybody loves, and you're going to be clearing up every bit of that trash and sometimes be taking out some of those bloaty bugs. But one thing to key highlight is that the cluster bomb will be able to actually stagger the Bile Titans. So if you need one of those moments where you have multiple Bile Titans and you need to line up a shot with something like an orbital precision strike, or even something like the Quasar cannon, this can be useful in one of those moments to hold them still to apply some serious damage to some of their weak spots. But beyond that, it's all about racking up the most kills and taking out every bit of that trash that's coming out of some of those bug breaches. Coming up right after that, we've got the Guard Dog Rover, which is going to be another one of those gold star standard stratagems that's going to give you passively another 250 kills every single match at a minimum. Sometimes it could be even more, and this is one of those moments where people will probably look at you and say that that high kill count is because of that rover, but guess what? No, it's a combination of the two. Rover is just something that helps out and is pretty much like man's best friend. And part of me wishes that the whole storyline behind the rover was some super dog on Super Earth controlling it, backing me up the whole time. But that's probably not the case. But besides that point, passively, Rover is going to be an absolute crowd control machine, and it pairs very well with the Erupter. This is something that is a strong capability of something like Rover, even though it is terrible against something like the automatons, because it virtually almost does nothing against them. But when it comes to facing off with a Terminate, this thing is going to be putting in the work. It's almost like the Energizer Bunny. It feels like that laser's uptime is almost 100%. It just keeps burning and burning and burning. And now some people may assume that this may be one of those overpowered stratagems. I just consider it an S-tier stratagem for the Terminate, as one of the biggest reasons I feel it's not overpowered is it does have its drawbacks. It can be quite deadly to you. If it hits you in the head, man, that thing is going to burn straight through and really quickly. And it will be able to take out your teammates, but that's on them because they should be able to see that laser and not run in front of it. I mean, let's be real. They're just being dumb in those moments. That's not on Rover. And it does have the capability of either aggroing one of those patrols that you may run in front of, or possibly aggro some of those random bugs you'll be finding across the map. And in those moments it can cause a bug breach, which can be troublesome, but with this loadout we'll be able to deal with it fairly quickly. And it just means more kills for you by the end of that match. Looking for that gold star, buddy. We're getting that yellow text. There's no doubt about it. But one of the biggest reasons that I need to, set the satire aside for with the Rover, I feel as though this may be something that some people have called overpowered. Maybe even the devs are looking at this. And who knows, maybe it's bugged right now. Maybe it's supposed to have a cooldown, or it's not working as it should be intended. Maybe it's supposed to be like the other guard dog and go to the backpack to cool down before it's ready to fire off again. But I'd say it's pretty much doing exactly what it should right now, and it's creating a lot of fun. And not only in the sense of just giving you that crowd control capability, but in the sense that this one stratagem is opening up a list of options when it comes to your primary weapon and your support weapons, if not a combination of the two, that you otherwise wouldn't probably use without something like this. It's giving you versatility when it comes to your loadouts, and it's giving more options to have a good time when facing off with the Terminate. Because right now when it comes to facing off with the automatons, it really does feel stale how I'm basically using the same loadout time and time again, and any time that I try to change it up or use something a little bit different, it almost feels like I'm running into more frustration than I am having fun. Where when I face off with the Terminate, I've got so many different options, so many different combinations, and they will work and they are a good bit of fun. I just have so much more available to me, and hopefully in the future this changes. But that's why I say the Guard Dog Rover feels like it shouldn't be something that's changed, because it is adding so much more to facing off with the Terminate. Coming up right after that, we've got the QUASAR cannon, which is just going to be that infinite eat it. We're talking about rockets for days, giving you the capability of taking down every one of those Bile Titans by shooting them twice inside of the forehead, and dealing one shot to any forehead of a Chargers is going to take them down with the quickness. You can't go wrong with the QUASAR cannon, especially paired with the ERUPTER and the Guard Dog Rover. It's going to give us everything we need to face off from any of those Terminate that rise up in front of us. But that's going to be the most brokenly overpowered meta loadout inside of Helldivers 2 right now, and if you're looking to take this into the automatons fight, then you'd switch out the Guard Dog Rover for the Shield Generation Pack, and then you'd take the Eagle Cluster Strike and switch that out for the Eagle Airstrike. You'll still be the #1 when it comes to the end of every single one of those matches, but it may be a little bit more difficult, and it won't be as carefree as the loadout we have here when it comes to facing off with the Terminate. So that is something to be noted. But when it comes down to how I came up with this loadout, this is literally something that I consider kind of like a meme build that I just kept seeing over and over again on a multitude of different comments from people that just wanted to share what their loadout is. You know, I had asked in several one of my other previous videos, what's your loadout when you're facing off with the automatons or the Terminate? And this combination just kept coming up time and time again from either some players that were just sharing what they liked and what they enjoyed versus what I was showcasing in some of my videos, or just, you know, some of those people that think they just know everything and they just have so many different details to try and give themselves credibility as to why the build is garbage compared to what they have to say in a 9-paragraph text, which some people with the 9 paragraphs, you know, aren't trying to sit there and be that type of sarcastic person. But at the end of the day, if you're writing some 9-paragraph comments, 9 times out of 10, I'm not sitting there to read the entire thing, I'll be real. I just do not have enough time for that entirely. 1 paragraph's enough for me to be able to read, and I try to read most of them. And there's been a slew of different variations when it comes to the loadouts that I've seen from some of you, and it's pretty interesting. I definitely have more than a few other combinations I'd like to try out when it comes to facing off with the Terminate that I have seen from some other people, but this one seemed to just hit. And the #1 stratagem that I just kept seeing 90% of the time was that QUASAR cannon. It's just still kind of going over my head how many people just end up using that alongside the Rover when it comes to facing off with the Terminate. I can see the appeal, and it definitely is a powerful combination. And overall, I'd say this is one of those loadouts that may not be the most exciting to me, but I can definitely see the purpose for a loadout like this. It is something that gives you the capability of being able to come into the game without having that full energy. This is technically what I'd like to call the 9 to 5 loadout. This is for those people that work that 9 to 5, that get off. Maybe they have to deal with kids, family, a wife. Maybe there isn't a wife and then they've got to deal with that in their single father life. Hey, I feel it. I'm right there with you. I know how that feels, but lucky enough for me, I don't have to pull the 9 to 5 right now. This is what I've got going, and hopefully I can keep sustaining myself with this for the time being, and hopefully on into the future. But when it comes down to that person that has that minimal amount of time, this is that loadout that definitely needs to be in the game to give them the capability of hopping on with some of their friends, or even not just hopping in with some randoms and not having to put in the full effort, but still get the full amount of fun and full capability of taking on every level of the difficulty when it comes to facing off with any portion of Helldivers 2. At least when it comes to facing off with the Terminate. Because no doubt there are so many different times where it's kind of one of those moments where I've been run down facing off with the automatons, where I put in over 8 hours already into the game, and you're just kind of at that point where you're more than likely just looking to have a little bit of fun. You're not trying to put in this like maximum effort, and you're not trying to just overkill yourself or put in the most skillful type of plays. You just want to be able to get in there and just kill some bugs and just have a good time. And that's technically what this loadout's all about. Even though it does make life a whole lot easier, and you could basically breeze through a lot of Terminate missions with it, I feel it has its place and it's something that needs to stay. But let me know how you feel down in the comments below. Is this a loadout you've been rocking? Is this something you feel should get nerfed or buffed in the future possibly? If you want to see more loadouts similar to this where you're just having a good time, you're having a fun time. You're not having to put in the maximum effort, you're just having some different combinations that give you a little bit of an easier time at dealing with some of the missions you'll be facing off with. And at the same time makes you look amazing at the end of every match, so you get to brag to everybody else that you carried them. Don't forget that. Don't forget to tell them that either. When you get that yellow text, you are the best. There's no doubt about it. But if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to see more content like this live, hit that link down in the description. Follow me over at Twitch. We'll be streaming daily. And on that note, have a good one.